Hey guys, so welcome to another tutorial. So this one is going to be about your health bar, and um, real simple to create, and you can do a couple things with it. Um, so I'm going to push play and give you an idea of what is going on with this tutorial before you start doing it to give you an idea. Alright, so we are playing, and we'll go into the spike. You see how your health decreases, and we'll go to the other object and have that replenish our life. So that's what this one's going to be about. Real easy. So we have this up and running here. Okay, so the health, and I'm going to get rid of that, not to take away anything from you, of course, but if I kind of go, oh, it's just that easy, you know, it is easy. But at the same time, if you've never done this before, then you can be like, yeah, it's not easy. Yeah. Alright, so what you want to do is with this, you can do this a couple ways. I like to have, you can do it this way. Go to Game Object, UI, and we can go to Slider, okay? Now notice how the slider showed up here. It does look a lot different than it was before. So we got a little knob here, and it's grayed out, okay? So if we expand onto the hierarchy here, notice you have your background, fill, and your handle slide area, which is, the slide is your slide. It's that little handle there. It goes back and forth, So we don't need the slide for this. So I'm going to get rid of it, okay? Now the background, you click on that and go to color, and I'm going to put red. So that's the background. Notice we don't have any life right now, so we don't want to start this game up with that. Okay, so we go to fill area, and if you just click on fill area, that's like the object itself. You're not going to be able to see all the values. So we click on fill, and click on the color here. It's going to bring up this bar. Select a color, adjust it so it's green. Now notice that has turned green, but we don't have any life so far. So if you click on the slider, go to the value, and notice it's at 0. And just increase it, and notice how the health bar goes up. Okay, so that's how to increase it, give it color and a background. Now if you're doing a game where you have more than just one health point, in total, you can always increase this to like 2, 30, 300. So I'm going to set it for 2, and of course I'm going to fill it. Now notice how it's a little bit still depleted. It's at its max value, but how do I say this? It's not quite at the right position. So I'm going to click on the right here and give it a little bit of to the left position, have it increase, and leave it at right there. So it's still the same value, it just kind of stretched it to technically the right, to the right. And so that is set up, although we don't want to have a health bar right in the middle of the screen here. So going to not click on the canvas, which was kind of like an overlay, I should say, for this camera. You want to click on the object itself, which is slider, and I'm going to go up to here on position Y, click on it, move it either to the left or right, and I'm going to leave it right there, and same thing with position X. So I click on the title, and as soon as I get this over, you can also dial it in too. I'll leave it right there. If you put your mouse cursor, notice how it changes to like a double left and right arrow. So you gotta go left or you go right. Okay, and you can always, dial it into with, typing in numbers. So, so we have that, and you can't have a health bar without like a title or a name. So I'll go to Game Object. Make sure your canvas is selected for this one. Game Object, UI, and I'm going to use Text Mesh Pro. If you don't have it, I think you can just import it in. Just read the directions before, the little prompt that shows up. It'll have 2 buttons, like import this and import the extras. It's going to take, about a minute or so if you have a good connection. So click on that, and we have the text. It's here. Of course we can't see it because it's bright white. Okay. And I'm gonna give it, just gonna call it health. Okay. I'd call it life, but then it sounds like a bad board game that everybody gets mad at. Yeah. I used to play life with friends a long time ago, and often it just turned out to where nobody wanted to play life anymore because everybody was getting into a massive argument, you know, and kids. So we have that. Health is a little bit big for this, so I'm going to go and decrease this to about, yes, I'm going to increase it to 330. Yes, then I set it to 30. Okay. And this is where playtesting and kind of design comes into play. You know, you can always set this for any color you want. And the slider, I'm going to have this go and change the scale a little bit so that it increases. This does not affect your power bar, your how much health you have at all. This is just stretching it, you know. So we want to make sure this is visible to the player so they know, hey, I'm dying. You know, that's a bad thing. So, or hey, we're good, we have enough power. Okay, so notice how your text has gone underneath the canvas. We have two objects now, the slider and your text. So the slider is good to go. Now, like I said, you can adjust the max value of the slider, and you can always set this for any value you want, which is here. When you make contact with either the spike or the heart, this value, literally the value, that's where that's going to be decreased, okay, in the script that we're going to make. And just kind of for personal reference, jump to Maya real quick. So these were the two objects. So notice how simple they are. Spear with a bunch of spikes, and they're all combined, going to mesh combined. Now, if you're wondering about the evenness of this, very valuable tool called Duplicate Special, and you can literally create a cone, set it in place, and adjusting its pivot. Actually, I'll show you, because if you've never done this before, well, you can be like, huh? So let's do a cone real quick, and do this from a top view. Okay, so we have that. -90, so it's laying flat. Okay. Now, if I do a duplicate special and have it rotate at its current pivot, which is right here, that's going to just have it, you know, pivoting in place like it's spinning, and we don't want that. So if you select the translate or the move tool, or hit W on the keyboard and then hit insert on the keyboard, notice how it just got adjusted. Well, it's allowed to be adjusted. You can move it down. Okay, so when we use the duplicate special, this will rotate this object based on this position here, on this pivot. Okay, and by the way, this is a Maya tutorial channel too, so nothing too much extra. Okay, so go to edit, special. Okay, brings up that. Okay, so we had it, I had guesstimated this at 45-degree turn, or spin, or rotate for every object that's created, and it's going to be automatic 7. So since I'm going to have 8 spikes in total with the original, and having them turn a little bit 45 degrees on this pivot point for every one, so it's like an incremental rotation, I think it would be called. You would hit apply, because we need to make sure this is correct. And notice it kind of was, but it was on the incorrect axis for this. Okay, for just this demonstration. So you can set this for anything. So we need to have this on 0, since I'm kind of just demonstrating. This isn't the way that the spike was created, of course. So I had it set for that. Okay. It's going to be a little bit of trial and error. So I got lucky and got it done on the first time. So you have your original 8. We have your original, and then the other 7, which is a total of 8. And then once all that is done, what I did was that group, not Control D, sorry, P, which is parent. I just went to, with all of them selected, mesh, combine. Okay, so now they're all one object, even though they're kind of still somewhat separate. But cool part is that now you can move them without any problem, all in the same area. And if you need to rotate for the next group, hit Control D. Now you've got spikes. Okay, and just throw your spear in there, combine that with those other objects, and you're good to go for the spike. And this guy, a little bit more complicated, but what you do is you create a CV curve. Okay, so see in there. You would take a picture. You know, I think I've got how to create a free image plane tutorial. Go back to that if you need to. So you can use that for reference. And you literally go to Edit, Create Curve Tools CV tool. Just draw it in there. Once you're done, of course you want to make sure it's complete. You go to Surfaces, I believe it is Planar, and just make sure it's at the right settings. So polygon, quads, squares, you know, that's made out of standard fit. You can do triangles, general fit. I think you can limit the count for this. You can do NURBS. I think you do partial, and so that's how that was created. And I just, from there, it's going to be flat. Okay, it's going to be 1. And turn this back to non-X-ray, bring it up close. From there, you just select the face. This is kind of in theory demonstration. Select the faces you need, that you want, which will be flat. Once you have all of them selected, go to, you can hit Control E, which will extrude it, and it'll pull those out. Now you have it essentially three-dimensional shape. Okay, so that's how those are created. So that's kind of a segue. And now if we go back to our other screen, back to Unity. Okay, so we talked about it before, and you have to import these guys in. They're just not magically going to show in or show up. Go back to that real quick. I always like to reference this because you may have forgotten, you may be new to this, you may just be having a bad day and just can't find things. So you want to have your object selected. Okay, so make sure you're in the proper mode. Okay, select, File, and you want to do Send Unity Selection. Okay, it's going to bring up this little window. Make sure you're in the proper folder. This is going to go to your project assets folder, and from there you want to name it, give it the proper format, which is I'm giving FBX on this one, and then you export. I did them individually. It's just easier that way for me, and it should shoot it to Unity. And let me go show you that real quick. Alright, back in Unity. So it's going to show up here in your workspace. So we have the heart and the spike. Okay, so you just click and drag that into your hierarchy game scene. So your hierarchy in your game scene. So nothing too special about these objects. You would have a box collider for each one. They are both going to be set to is trigger. Okay. The one difference between the two, other than being, you know, geometrical differences, is that you want to set these with a particular tag. So the heart I associated with health. So I just went to add tag, create, type it in, and put it in health. The other one, which was spike, same thing. Boom, type it in, you're good. Okay. So that's pretty much it for those two objects. Okay, they're still pretty much worthless until you create a script that will go on the player, and I will show you that in a split second, or 2 or 3, or whatever you're counting. Okay, so here's our script, and you should remember how to create the script, and you can do that. I'm going to show you. Anyways, click on your workspace, well, whatever. Right click, create C# script, and go and name that, and then double click on that. Visual Studio should pop up, and then you can start editing your script. Now don't worry if you don't know how to do this. I'm going to show you the script, which isn't a problem. And so we'll go to Visual Studio once that script opens up. So this is going to basically be wired to your health slider, your power bar, and whatever. But you need a variable for it that's going to be visible in Unity. So you got to make it public so you can see it in Unity, in the inspector. It's going to be a category or type of like slider, and then its name, which I just called health slider. Okay. This will not work though until you put in this library. So using Unity engine.ui. Make sure engine is spelled correctly, because you can always do editor and you'll get a complete different thing, and Unity will be like, I have no idea what you're talking about. We're going to just mark it red. So once that's all done, you're going to not put anything for start, not put anything for update. Instead, you're going to create a kind of like a private function, I think it is. And so private void on trigger, which we had trigger set on those two objects before. If the player if the player collides with the other object, basically that's what it's saying there. When that makes contact, if the game object has been tagged health, do this. If it's been tagged spike, do that. Okay. Now, with the so-called do this, or this section here, we're going to take the health slider variable, which I'll show you what to do with that in a second, but up here, and its category of dot value, because we had the value category in the slider in the inspector in Unity. It's basically saying add 0.8f, which is the float variable, which there's float, double, integer. Integer are solid numbers, floats are decimal but kind of shorter, and doubles are decimals but way bigger. Okay, and there's other ones too. But put in the F to make sure. Okay, and so you increase it by 0.8 because, well, that's our health bar goes up to 2 in this case. So yeah, you can put it to whatever number you want. You put it to 10. I don't think it'll have a conniption fit. It won't like break down on us. But you can also set it for 2. And then once that happens, destroy, not you. If you put destroy game object, it'll, once you make contact with that health pickup or whatever it is, it's not a pickupable health item, it will destroy you. It'll destroy that first person character, and that's not what that's supposed to do. So you don't want that. So in that case, I put other dot game object. So I'm saying literally destroy the other game object that you made contact with. Okay. And you're probably wondering why there's 2 ifs, so I'll get into that in a second. But the other case, if it was tagged spike, instead of adding that value, subtract it and set it to the new value. Okay. So if it was 1 subtracted by 0.8, now the new value will be whatever that is. Or in this case, it's 2 minus 0.8, so you just did the math. That'll be your new value, and destroy that other game object. Okay. Now, the reason why I have 2 if statements. Okay, so you're probably wondering why there's 2 ifs and not an else. Okay, this is kind of a way for Unity and Visual Studio to detect if an encounter is one or the other. Okay, I like to do 2 ifs. I know sometimes people go, well, if else. I like to do 2 ifs. So, it could be if an object is tagged health, great. If it's tagged spike, great. If it's tagged magic, if it's tagged a cat, I don't, whatever it is, whatever you want in this, do what you need to. So that's pretty much our script for this. It's a really short script, and make sure though that you, of course, re-initialize or redo it, or resave it, or do that once you make the changes. Alright, and so what you want to do for that script, you want to place it in the first person controller that we had in a previous lesson. So go back to that lesson. I think it's under like how to create a first person character. It's pretty simple. It's pretty much using Unity's game objects, but they work. So now keep in mind, I've heard somewhere there's rumors that they may be deprecated soon. So yeah, we'll figure that one out later. Deprecated, or what I call depreciated, like we don't need you no more, goodbye, you know. So but that we'll find out what's going to happen with that. So I could be wrong too. So alright, so you would take the script, you can, for all assurance purposes, click on, I think it's add component. Do I have the right screen so you can see this? Yes, okay. So click on add component, and then it's already in there, so you click on health script. You know, I don't want it twice, of course. So I'll remove that, okay. And you want to drag the slider from before into there, okay. So now everything's wired. So you got game objects, and you got your script that's attached to your player object. And you got the health bar. You know, everything's working, should be working pretty good. So now the one thing I would highly suggest is at this point, push play, and let's see if we get what we need. Okay. Alright, so ouch. No, I'm not gonna say it. You get the point. This platform's getting too short. I gotta expand it for the next lesson. But yeah. So the health increased. So that's what we wanted. The thing is, though, is that you gotta make sure if it still doesn't work, and you go and backtrack and you know, make sure your script is good, your objects are good. You know, you have the script attached to your player. Make sure that these are. Make sure your objects are tagged. So tag spike, okay? Tag health, okay? And if they're doing the opposite of what you want, make sure they have the appropriate tag, you know? So then that should pretty much work. And that is pretty much it for this lesson. If you did the previous lesson for the key to pick up and open up the treasure chest, you can always throw it in there and see if it'll affect it. And you can make that, and once this is all created, you can actually go in and make this into like a prefab. And I should go into that in another episode. So I have that in there. This should not trigger the box to open, okay, because we had that established in the previous lesson, that the key will only open up this box, okay? So, but what I will do is, I will throw it into the treasure chest. So, if you move the treasure chest, it should move with it. So, okay, and so let's test this out, see what we get. Alright, ow. Okay, and we gotta pick up the key for that to open. So, oops. Key is picked up, and open up the box. Boop. Okay. Now you can always set the key to destroy itself too, like you did with the pickups. So you can add that for a script later. But keep it the key, and then you just make contact with that, and that's pretty much it. Increases your health. It stayed with the box. It didn't open up the box, and the health object is no more, as well as with the little spiky object too. So. And that's pretty much it. If you have any questions, like, comment, and subscribe. Put the questions in the comments. You know, this is kind of just like a simple tutorial. So the cool part is, once you make this like treasure box to prefab, you can put it in your level. You know, and it should always work. Especially since the health script is on your player. So then you just need to have the appropriate objects arranged and, you know, hooked up, you know, appropriately. And that's pretty much it. Thank you so much. Like I said, leave a comment or leave a question. If you have a question, if it's not working with you, or if you have another idea how to go about this. And that's pretty much it. And is there anything else? No, just one. Guess that's what they're good for. Just one. I wanted more though.